Me now? All right. I apologize for that. I did an update recently, and I'm guessing it must have mixed up something. So I do apologize for that. Let me go back to the beginning, and we can get rocking and rolling. Thank you for staying on and being patient. So I was saying earlier that my name is Dr. Scott Thompson. I am the doctor of occupational therapy. I have my master's and doctorate in occupational therapy, but I also am the director of clinical services for Saebo Incorporated. And today we're going to be talking about the Mirror Box and the SaeboGlide, which are really two inexpensive but essential training tools for anyone's therapy program. So whether you're in the clinic or you're at home and you already have things that you do in your home exercise program, or you're just getting started, these are great either adjunct tools to add to your therapy program, or if you're just getting started, these are great inexpensive tools that will help you boost, essentially progress and get going in your home exercise program. So we're going to talk about these objectives, which is the different features of the Saebo Mirror Box and the SaeboGlide and how they are beneficial over other mirror boxes and traditional tools, how to insert these tools into your normal therapy routine, and then also some research on mirror therapy and physical intervention, which is the SaeboGlide. So as a clinician, I'm always asking myself, what is going to be the best treatment for my clients? And of course, I would have never joined Saebo's team if I didn't think that we had the products and the tools and the resources to make people's lives better. But not everybody thinks like I do. And for example, these three researches show that the one on the left says that in the first 14 days following a stroke, stroke survivors only use their affected limb 7% of a 9-hour day, or 38 minutes. So imagine that you could only use your arm 4 minutes out of every hour. That's pretty hard. I mean, I talk with my hands. I'm an animated speaker, and I probably move my hands several hundred times in the 30 minutes that we're going to be together. So that to me is a very dismal number, saying that in that very, very select, in that very beginning, people are not moving their limbs and not being assisted to move their limbs, which some of our devices do and some of our technology does. In the center, we have research that says that stroke survivors, and again, this research is on stroke survivors because that's really a lot of research on stroke, but this doesn't limit it just to stroke. It really is across the board for neurological recoveries. It's a lot of people don't do enough or don't get the care that they need to really progress in their recovery. So the research in the middle says that when they ran these studies, that really people were only getting 23 to 32 repetitions per a 45-minute or 60-minute session, which are the standard lengths of therapy sessions. So imagine that you're only using your limb every 2 minutes in your therapy session. To me, that says you're not getting the best quality, you're not getting your money's worth. Medicare is definitely paying for something, but I don't know what it is. Hopefully it's a lot of education. But to me, that is definitely not enough. I mean, we have our virtual reality that will help you move 200, 300 times in a very short amount of time. And that's, virtual reality is not even supposed to be used for the entire session. So in 30 minutes, 15 minutes, you can move 200, 300 times, which is a lot more effective than just once every 2 minutes. And then the research on the right says that in a typical, again, 45-minute to 60-minute session, people are really only doing activity-related arm training, so a specific functional task, 4 minutes out of the session. So that is 1/10 or even worse, like 1/15 of your time where you're doing something functional. And that irks me, but yet I know and have come across and have even worked in places where people do this. And I actually just spoke at a state conference, and I heard somebody say a great line. They said, it's really easy to be a lazy therapist. And and hopefully you listening and anybody you come in contact with, really you should push it, and you should be challenged, and you should be benefiting from your therapy time, and your time at home should be set up so that you can be beneficial there as well. And all the research supports that, but not always is that the case. So Saebo, for those of you who don't know a little about Saebo, let me take a short minute to tell you the history. So Saebo was started in 2001, actually by one of the products we're talking today, the SaeboGlide. But it's now an international neuro rehab device company, and it was started by two brothers who were occupational therapists. And the reason they started the company was because they were frustrated with the lack of options that neurological patients were given to really help their hand. Essentially, when they started the company, most people were focusing on the shoulder and the arm, and a lot of people still do. But they said there's got to be something out there. So I know early in my career, I can think of people that I released from my care because we couldn't get the hand to work, or I didn't know techniques, et cetera. I really wish, of course, I think most of us do. I wish we knew now at whatever age you're talking about. Early in my career, I wish I really had the knowledge that I had now. But nonetheless, the biggest thing that I saw was that a lot of people who can't use their hand really don't use their arm, or they sort of just negate to use their arm or select and say that it just doesn't work. And then that leads to what's called learned non-use, and then also neglect. And sometimes neglect can come from a neurological injury, but sometimes it can be learned, like self-taught, that, hey, my arm is I had one lady that always called it dummy. Well, we nicknamed it to somebody or gave it a name and personified it so that we could yell at the limb, but it which actually helped her for motivation, because it was always a naughty limb. But the big thing was that the focus is we got to get the arm involved, and you can't just let it sit there. So back to the brothers, this all of this information and what they saw in the clinic drove them to start experimenting with different tools and objects and dynamic splinting for neurological hand recovery. And from that came our flagship product, which most people are familiar with, which is the Saebo Flex, which is right here. And if you fast forward 15 years, now we have all of these different devices. But the history of the Saebo Flex is also that it's in multiple textbooks. It's being taught in occupational and therapy schools across the country. And I was recently told that it was even a question on the national OT exam, which is pretty cool. And one more thing that is really wonderful is that last November, we were actually put into a ongoing museum exhibit at the Science Museum of London as one of the top medical devices in the last 500 years. So that, when was that, November 16th or something like that is when it began. And it's called the Wellcome Gallery. And it's in with 500 plus years of medical breakthrough interventions, like the first MRI and penicillin. So that speaks loudly on what people really do see from the benefits of the Saebo Flex. But in those 15 years until now, we also created all of these different products that really help people with upper and lower extremity care across a continuum of care. So you can use some of our devices on day one when you get a diagnosis or in the hospital, all the way through your current state. We even have research articles where someone 23 years after their stroke started using the Saebo Flex and found great benefits in return and recovery of the arm. And there's actually a video on our YouTube page about that. So we're in over 4,000 hospitals across 50 states. We've helped over 500,000 people internationally, and we keep developing things like our popular exercise guide. Free resources, of course, are always the best. So we have the exercise guide and Saebo Mind, mental practice recordings and educational topics on our webinars and website and blogs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we're continuing to develop these things. I'm sorry, sometimes I just love Saebo so much I get rambling, so I apologize. Let's get back to the presentation. Just to explain some of these products here, up here we have our functional orthotics. This one is a functional orthosis that you wear all day long to help you with grasp and release and functional activities, and it's for people with mild or no spasticity. The Saebo Flex is designed to help you train for periods of 45 minutes, maybe an hour at a time, and that's for people with moderate to severe spasticity in their hand and arm. The Saebo Stretch I love. I give to almost every client of mine that has some type of splinting need. The reason is it's great for protecting your joints and putting you in great positioning, because you can position the wrist and the thumb and where the forearm rests with all the multiple straps. But it also has a flexible hand plate that allows people with spasticity and tone or muscle weakness to actually flex their hand when the spasticity or their need to move their fingers comes in, and then it'll push them back into a nice resting position, thus helping avoid that clenched fist resting position that a lot of people see in chronic stroke survivors, or allowing that tissue in your muscles and tendons to shorten and then making it really hard to open your hand. Down here in the bottom right, we have our electrical stimulation category, and you have your SaeboStim micro sensory electrical stimulation, which research actually shows that a lot of people ignore working on sensory recovery during rehab, and thus it does not produce the biggest or the best results. And then we also have our wireless wearable electrical stimulation device, the SaeboStim Go. This is super simple, can be applied with one hand. It only has one parameter. You just turn it on and then turn up the intensity to get that nice strong muscle contraction. It also, versus many other types of electrical stimulation, it is not painless. It is the way it was designed. There are no hot and cold spots on the pads. There's no spiking. So I've had people, even in annual conferences, therapists that are afraid of electrical stimulation, and I put it on them and they're like, oh, well, that's really not that bad. Down at the bottom, we have the Saebo mirror box we're going to talk about. We have our out of the shoe AFO called the Saebo Step. This is great for trying to get out of that plastic AFO that most people have, progressing, making sure that you're using the muscles of your foot and your ankle correctly to help you with ambulation and progressing. And then over here, we have all of our clinical products, and we have more than this, but this is what we have posted in this slide. So the Saebo mirror box. A lot of people don't use Saebo, or not Saebo. Let me retract that. A lot of people don't use mirror box. A lot of people use Saebo. You saw 500,000 plus people. But mirror box therapy, a lot of people shy away from it because they really don't know how to use it. But it's a very, very powerful tool because it involves your brain, and it's very simple to treat many different dysfunctions that you have in your upper limb. And you do this. That second little grouping or bullet point is a lot of words, but essentially what you do is you look into the mirror and your brain gets tricked into believing that you're seeing your affected limb move. So this lady has an affected left upper extremity or arm, and as she's looking and doing exercises in the mirror, her brain gets tricked into it. And recently I was working with some of our representatives and actually set them up and had them do mirror therapy. And within, like, one of them, you know, had that immediate response to it where she was fully engaged and her brain was like, that is my left hand, that is awesome. And a couple other people were like, oh, it's not working. So I had them do the exercise, you know, 2 times, 3 times, and then all of a sudden it was clicking and people's eyes were really big and they're like, oh my gosh, I get it. Like I see it, I believe it. And the whole entire room actually got engaged. It was a really powerful moment, especially as a therapist, because you love to see how people can react and get the benefit from it. So if you ever have a mirror box in front of you, don't think that you can't get engaged. It might just take the right setting, the right stimuli. It might take the right actions, but I see almost everybody be successful with a mirror box. Not all products are going to be for everybody. Some people don't want to spend the time with it. That's fine. But I am a strong believer in the benefits of the power of your brain and the mirror box. So talking about the benefits, you can improve motor function, which is really the recruitment of muscle, how you move, the planning of movements. You can reduce neglect, which I talked about before. A lot of people that don't have a hand that is functional, they start to neglect that limb and say that it's non-dysfunctional or it's just dysfunctional. I apologize. And it can help reduce neglect. It helps improve sensation because not only, so the research shows that they do research with a fMRI on the brain. So as you are doing this, the areas of the affected side or of your brain that control your affected limb, they're lighting up. There's fireworks going off. but yet you visually you won't see the movement in your arm. And so not only is it lighting up in your motor cortex, but it's lighting up in that adjacent sensation cortex. And like I said before, with the SaeboStim Micro, a lot of people don't focus on sensation recovery, but if you can't be safe and you don't know the difference between hot and cold or deep touch or pain or where your arm is in space, etc., your recovery and your outcomes are going to be really out of whack, and you're not going to have the full recovery that you want. It also helps with reducing spasticity by, again, improving motor function and helping with relaxation of the muscles and the tightness and what your brain activity is doing to create that spasticity, and also in reducing pain. And a lot of people don't know that this actually originated with amputees. Mirror therapy, originally people who have an amputation of a leg or an arm, they have something called phantom limb pain. And that phantom limb pain leads them to believe in their brain, in their feelings, that they have either pain or burning sensation, itching, they can feel cold weather, all that kind of stuff, but their limb's actually not there. So they found out that by tricking the brain, you can actually reduce and eliminate the pain and all of those sensations that come from the amputation of part or full limb. So here are some of the features. The first one is I love that it's a one-handed operation. So if you look at step 1, it's nice and compact and folded on itself. Step 2, she's opened it up. Step 3, she's actually lifting up on a fabric ring. And then step 4, as she pulls it up and forward, it now stands up and it's ready to be used as a mirror box. And it really is that simple. And it's just do this in the reverse order to close it. And that's why the one-handed operation is phenomenal, because most other things on the market are either fixed, where they're in some type of big awkward box, or they're collapsible, where they will spring open, but you can't recollapse them with one hand. This you can. It's also very lightweight. I've had people, well, actually all three of these sort of go together. The lightweight, the sturdiness of the design, and the ability for it to collapse are very good for transportation and storing. So there's people that have it in their bedside nightstand. There's one lady who used to carry it everywhere she went in her oversized purse. Or there's another person that used to toss it into their luggage, because we all know that if you're using, weight matters now when you're flying places. And so this is a very light tool that you can take with you for working on your recovery no matter where you go. And one of the biggest things I love is the mirror is the biggest really that I've seen on the market, except for somebody who just has a stand with glass on it, which is actually not the best. It's very hard to move and position. And this is actually a picture of me from one of my videos, the unboxing video, and I am 6'3". So you can imagine this is taking up 2/3 of my torso. It's I think the mirror is approximately 12 inches. So it's an entire foot that you can work. And by having that big mirror, both lengthwise and height, you can see a lot more and not have to get into a contorted, and you guys can't see me do this, but get into a contorted position. You have to lean down and drop your neck, and it puts you in a really bad biomechanical position. You probably get kinks in your neck and soreness, etc. You don't want that. This helps eliminate all of that, where you can see what's going on in the mirror without having to get in that contorted position. So one other thing is that you can combine, in therapy, you always want to be efficient, right? Because we all, especially in nowadays, we always have a million and one things we need to do. And a lot of what people say is, I don't have time to help myself or get healthy or whatever. I know some days I'm like, I have too much to do. I've got to go outside and do this. I've got to take care of my daughter. I've got to da-da-da-da. And I can't make it to the gym. Same thing with rehab. What you want to do is be able to be as efficient as possible. So I'll tell you, when I go to the gym, I'm actually extremely efficient. I do 10 minutes of cardio exercise, but then I am so fast moving through my thing, I keep my cardio up and my heart rate up while doing repetitions. And usually in a 45-minute period, I can get through 15 to 18 different exercises and do 30 to 40 sets of exercises plus 10 minutes of cardio. And so that helps when you're doing electrical stimulation during this. And she right now has the SaeboStim Micro on, and you are working on boosting the sensation with the electrical stimulation, but also you can combine functional electrical stimulation of the Stim Go or one of our other electrical stimulation products, and have muscle contraction and movement and working on neurological signals to and from the brain with another technology and intervention while doing mirror therapy. So you can get two birds with one stone? There's the saying. So here's a quick video. Oh, sorry, next slide will be a quick video. Here's the research. So mirror therapy on its own or in combination with other interventions, so that's anything that you're doing, has been shown to improve many aspects of upper limb function following neurological injury or recovery. And that includes decreasing stroke severity or the impairment that the stroke and all of its existing symptoms have on your life, increasing proprioception, which is the ability to sense where your body is in space, which essentially helps with motor planning and control and functional task completion. Reducing spasticity, which we talked about earlier, but also increasing, and again, the stuff that we said earlier as well about benefits is also proven in research. These are the ones that from the most latest research. It helps improve dexterity. I shouldn't say the latest research. Let's just say these are all home runs. There's so much research out there that MirrorBox works on these. The other ones as well are home runs. I just didn't put them all together because that'd be a lot of info on one slide. It works on dexterity, which is improving the ability to move your fingers in your hand to grasp objects and manipulate things in your hand. And then of course, motor function was listed before and I've talked about it a lot. And that is very, very key to actually being able to use your arm. So if you're just starting out, we recommend using this 30 minutes a day, 5 times a week. If you can spare that time in your life, it's great, because part of what I do for improving your mental focus is I create what we call low stimuli environment when I use MirrorBox. So that's sort of like the environment that if you've gone to a masseuse for massage therapy, or if you're trying to meditate or relax, you dim the lights a little bit, not enough to put you to sleep, but you dim the lights a little bit, so that's less light stimuli coming in. You try to get into a quiet environment, sometimes play meditation or like the wind flutes or that type of instrumental music that's very relaxing. And this helps, and this is research based, but also I've seen this working with clients, is it helps by eliminating those stimuli, allows your brain to really focus more of its energy into the task that you're doing. It's also better if somebody's talking, or if you're doing our free SaeboMind mental practice exercises, that you're also going to get into this sort of low stimuli environment, and it helps with relaxing a lot of what's going on in your brain, so that again you can engage more with what you're doing in your recovery. If you have a super busy schedule, and I know a lot of us do, 30 minutes a day, 5 times a week might not be the best. There is research out there that shows that 30 minutes a day, at least 3 times a week, is beneficial. Again, here at Saebo, we believe the more therapy you do, the better. So being efficient, being proactive, really saying, I'm going to sacrifice to get better, that is going to be what helps you get better. At least that attitude, I should say. You're going to get better no matter what. Well, I'm not sure what's going on with that video. It was working earlier. Maybe it's something that's going on with the sound. So I apologize, but it was showing a gentleman working on different exercises with the Saebo MirrorBox, and he was also wearing the Saebo Stim Micro. And you can find that on our YouTube channel. But what I wanted to show you was all the different exercises, opening and closing your hand, or running your fingers, walking your fingers up and down the mirror, or picking up objects and putting them into a container or a bowl, squeezing an object and releasing. All those types of different exercises are actually located in the back of the manual that comes with your Saebo MirrorBox, so that we can guide you through popular exercises and get your brain engaged. So next we'll talk about the SaeboGlide. So the SaeboGlide, like I said before, is a very powerful tool, and it's one of the first tools that the co-founders of the company developed. And I put plus in parentheses because the SaeboGlide and the SaeboGlide Plus are essentially the same base, but then the Plus model it involves a hand strap for people who can't grab onto the sliding component of the SaeboGlide. So there's many features to the SaeboGlide. It is essentially a strengthening tool, but it does a lot more than that. It exercises muscles in all planes. So against gravity means that you're moving, away from the floor. No matter what angle, if you're moving away from the floor, you're fighting gravity, which is a really hard movement in neurological recovery, especially if you have weakened muscles. In gravity-assisted movements, which means you can move towards the floor. So if let's say somebody has a real spastic resting position for their right arm, their elbows bent, their hands up near their shoulder, moving with the SaeboGlide down towards the floor to engage those triceps, gravity is going to assist with extending that arm. And then you have gravity eliminated positions, which means that you move sort of horizontal with the floor or from left to right, which means it really doesn't have that much, or gravity doesn't have that much effect on any of your movements. You can use this device in sitting, lying, or standing positions. So whether you're fatigued or energetic or working on balance or want to challenge yourself, of course, lying down would be the easiest. Sitting and then standing is going to be a progression that you can add to challenge yourself to get yourself stronger and keep working with the SaeboGlide. It also allows people with poor strength all the way to good strength. And if you know there's manual muscle tests, it would be someone with like a 1+ all the way up to 4. Probably, actually, that's not true. You can go up to 4+ using this. And really, it's adaptable because of the different positions and exercises and the programs that we offer in the manual that allow you to progress and use this in every stage of your recovery. It also allows you to continue to challenge the patient as they progress. So you can add in different features. You can accommodate for certain things. You can challenge them. Like one person I had them stand on 1 foot while doing this and then switching between 3 different exercises. Now they were a little higher function and their balance was good. So we were working on multitasking and multiple variable things. But essentially, like I said, you can use it in any stage of your recovery. And one of the great things is, again, we have the SaeboGlide Plus, which is the plus attachment, which allows someone with a flaccid hand, which means no ability to grasp or move their hand, or weakened hands that have trouble holding on to objects. You can use the plus attachment to not have to worry about holding on to the device. So if your fingers slip off, or if you even want to not worry about the position, it actually attaches to the sliding component on the SaeboGlide to allow you to not worry about your hand, but still do the exercises that you need. And again, here's the differences between the SaeboGlide and the SaeboGlide Plus. On the left is the SaeboGlide, a long pole with the sliding component and hand rest, and then you have the SaeboGlide Plus, where this gentleman, you can see there's a blue strap around his wrist and around his knuckles. That is the hand strap component that makes it the SaeboGlide Plus. Not everybody needs the Plus, but a lot of people purchase it just in case of fatigue, or a lot of people we find are sort of in a beginning to moderate phase of their recovery and not always in that high stage of recovery. So here's a great example, and I do apologize. It looks like the pictures are a little pixelated, but this is an example of a gentleman doing one of the lying exercises, and he's working on shoulder flexion, which means he's going to move his left hand up towards his head and then back down. And I don't know if you can see, but there's actually a rubber band. There's O-rings that are on this device. There's one right here, and there's one right up by his hand. And those are actually what stop the sliding component from moving, but it also is a way to help progress or gauge how far you are. That's a target. So if you set it up, let's say 6 inches, and you want to always reach that position, then you'll repetitively try to hit that O-ring and come back down. And it helps with your range of motion, helps with the motor planning, progression, etc. Here's an example of him lying down again, but now he's doing a gravity reduced position. So he is having to extend his arm and hold that bar up away from his chest, which is fighting gravity, but then he's also doing horizontal abduction and adduction, which means taking the arm away from his torso and then bringing it back in. So he not only has to keep his arm straight, but then he's got to move his arm left to right at the same time. So another way to, again, progress in a lying position. We also have him doing elbow flexion in this position. So right now he's got the pole resting over his right shoulder and holding it in place with his right unaffected limb. And then with his left hand, he actually bends his elbow up towards his right shoulder and then also gets assisted by gravity back down towards the floor and working on purposefully and volitionally moving or extending his arm because his triceps were really weak. And here's a comparison of range of motion. So on the left, you know, as a therapist, this is where my eyes go. I see his arms up above his head, right? But do you notice that the arm is bent, that his hand is in a semi-closed position, that his mouth is open, that his right or his left entire shoulder girdle is raised up, that he's holding on to his right thigh for stabilization? All of those things are showing me that that is actually, if we took away some of that stuff, his arm would not go that high. And also we need to work on some other weaker components in his overall physical ability. But then if you look at same time, same person, we handed him the SaeboGlide, and you can see he is not only sitting without holding on or trying to stabilize himself, his shoulders are perfectly square. He's holding that stick, not even resting on the ground, but he's holding it up off the ground, which is requiring more stabilization in his core and more sitting balance, but also allows him to reach even higher. And his hand or his elbow is almost completely straight, and the O-ring, you can barely see it in this picture, but it's right here. So he's actually going to move all the way up and then all the way back down to his hand. Up, down, and then eventually he moves his hand down here, and there's an O-ring right down here that's faintly blue. And he'll actually do this entire range of motion in the same time. Arm up, arm down. So research shows that strength training, doing multiple repetitions, and doing repetitive motions are all good for upper limb rehabilitation and recovery. And essentially, if you're getting muscles stronger and doing multiple repetitions and repetitive motions, so that the repetitive motions is a key factor. A lot of people are like, I want to do one thing and then go to the next, and then go to the next, and go to the next. Well, yeah, we're sensory seeking humans. That's what we do. But what you want to do is make sure that you can master one thing specifically. You can change it, you know, periodically, but you want to do 2 or 3 sets of exercises, because with that repetitive motion, you're building neurons and pathways in your brain. And the more that you use a specific neuron or pathway in your brain, the bigger it gets and the stronger it gets, and the permanent position it has in your brain. And especially following stroke or traumatic brain injury, where a part of your brain is completely injured, you want to do those repetitive motions to help with your improvement. And you want to, or the research also shows that with the strength training, with SaeboGlide, for example, it improves motor function, just like the mirror box. It improves your range of motion, as we were just describing with this. You could see that he's eventually going to get here all the way down to here with moving his shoulder. It improves activities of daily living. And again, these are the home runs. Research shows that strength training improves everything, but it depends on how you use it or what you do, which is sort of the complexity of understanding research. But activities of daily living. If you're using the SaeboGlide, you're going to have better results with activity of daily living. And then last but not least, you're going to increase your muscle strength. And with muscle strength becomes better coordination, usually more sensation, better ability to do functional tasks that you want to do and get back to that recovery level that you want to be. So we recommend that you start with 3 sets of 10 repetitions, you know, at least 3 to 5 times a week running through one of the programs. So in the manual, we start you out with doing stretches, because anytime you do strength training, you really want to warm up your body, get blood flow, help with tendons and ligaments to loosen them up. It's called ballistic stretching. But you could also hold it for a very long period of times, and that's been shown to improve the overall length of your tendons and muscles, to make you more flexibility, sort of like yoga. You know, you hold that pose for a long period of time, and you're not only increasing strength, but also increasing your flexibility. And again, if you're going to do 3 sets of 10 repetitions, then you're going to be building those motor neurons in your brain and really making your recovery beneficial. And you can improve upon your 3 sets of 10 repetitions for, let's say, 5, 6 exercises that are in the manual, which, by the way, let me go back to the manual. You start with the stretches, and then we have sort of a level 1, level 2, sort of a beginner, moderate, and advanced programs that are in the manual to help guide you and push you along. And we recommend that you challenge yourself. I'm the type of person that, you know, I want you to do something for about a week or 4 or 5 days, depending on how quick you progress. And then we're going to switch it up. We're going to add another challenge point, and you're going to repetitively do it in your home exercise program, but you're going to see great results by doing it 5, 6, 7 times a day, or a week, not a day, a week. So with the SaeboGlide, you can progress 5 different ways. You can increase the number of repetitions. So instead of doing, you know, 3 sets of 10 repetitions, you can do 3 sets of 15, 3 sets of 20, 4 sets of 10. You can increase the angle of the pull. So let's say you're lying down and you are doing that shoulder flexion where it was completely in line with the guy's body. You could tilt that towards the ceiling, and now you're going to have to work a little bit against gravity. So changing the angle of the pull, no matter what position you're in, is going to help you increase and challenge yourself. And there's something in therapy called the just right challenge, and that is essentially saying you got to find that place where you can be successful, but it's not so easy that it's unmotivating or not doing what it's supposed to. I mean, if we lift a 1-pound weight 1,000 times, or we lift, well, 1,000's a lot, 100 times, or we lift 15 pounds, 3 sets of 10, which one do you think is going to get you stronger? It's going to be the 3 sets of 10 with a 15-pound weight, because it's challenging your body more, and it's making you progress and making your muscles grow and your brain and all of the neuroplasticity, et cetera, advance. Number 3 is you can advance at different levels of the exercises. So like I said, the manual has different programs in it showing you different levels of exercises. So the beginner, sort of advanced, and et cetera. You have, you can increase your range of motion. So again, if we go back to this, you might have the O-ring right at the top of where he's reaching, and it might be at your hand. And then what he's going to end up doing, or you are going to do, is you move the O-ring out a little bit, move it down this way too. And you can increase your range of motion that way. I used to have people use the SaeboGlide. I shouldn't say used to, but I've had people that will mark it sort of like a growth chart that you do on the wall with a child. And we will say, okay, this is where the O-ring was on this date for biceps. This is where it was for shoulder flexion. And you can actually mark and track how far you're going. Other people have used logs to see what their range of motion and strength is, et cetera. And then last but not least, you can actually use a wrist weight and put it on the person's arm to really challenge them. So not only are you increasing the range of motion and all of the 4 other ways, but you can also add external weight to make it even more challenging and make them fatigue. Again, sort of the example of 1 pound 100 times, or 15 pounds for 3 sets of 10. So just to let you know, for the clients or patients that are on board, any of our patient products you can order, and we will ship the item to you directly to your home or wherever you're at. You can try it, wear it, and use it as much as you want. And if you're not completely satisfied, you can contact us within 30 days, and we'll provide instructions on how to ship you back the item. You know, most of the time, and I'm a consumer of many, many products, most of the time somebody gives you like a 90-day warranty or a 30-day window return policy, and they essentially say, don't use it, keep it as clean as possible. Like shoes, they're like, you can't walk anywhere. Well, how do I know if the shoes are going to work or hurt? Well, you have to try it out and use it. So what we do is we offer our clients the ability to use and wear it and see if it's the right fit for you. And most of the time it is, but we don't limit you to say you can't touch it, you can't you got to keep it clean. It doesn't work that way. We're going to let you use our devices to allow you to see how great they can benefit your life. And then again, it's 100% refund guaranteed. We're not going to give you hassles. There's no risk. It's just we want you to be satisfied and we want you to progress in your recovery. So we're going to let you try it out. And if it doesn't work for you in 30 days, money back guarantee. Also, for the clinicians that are out there, if you want to try any of our patient products or any of our clinical devices or systems out in your clinic, you just call and let us know, and we will ship those out to you. The SaeboGlide and the Saebo mirror blocks are parts of different components and things that we have, and really should be things that are in your clinic. As far as I know, really, we're the only company that offers things that aren't just for one person. Essentially, we have kits and systems and devices that really allow groups of people to be engaged and do things at multiple times and really help people progress the most. You can demo any of these products in your clinic and also receive a free prize for just trying out the demos. You can involve, like I used to be a director and a multi-site director for rehab, and you can involve your entire team. So that means, the leaders of your teams, all of your therapists, the administration, marketing, because a lot of times when you get new equipment, it's amazing how great people take to that and how great your outcomes can be. And I like to make sure that people are aware of it so that they can come to my clinic and not go to, XYZ therapy down the road that doesn't have anything that's going to benefit them. And I don't mean it from a business standpoint. My whole job and my whole reason I became a clinician is I want to help people get better, and Saebo devices help people get better, hands down. But again, you guys can try it out for 2 weeks. There's a couple days of shipping, but essentially 2 business weeks in your clinic. Use the products, test it out, contact clinical support or your representative with questions. Same with clients. You can contact clinical support or your representatives with any questions that you have during your trial periods. And then there are, again, free shipping and returns for our demo products as well. And again, both of those are only in the US. So if there are any international people listening, I apologize, but that's only a US policy right now. I wanted to also let you know that next month we're going to be talking about the Saebo Stretch. Again, one of my favorite things and well, I love all our products. I'm not going to lie, but it's a really cool and unique therapy tool. And like I said, I give it to almost anybody that has some type of need for a resting hand position, because the hard plastic ones, they have a purpose, but most of the time, the prolonged tension and things that occur and the poor positioning really hurts people in the long run. So I love giving people the Saebo Stretch. And that's going to be April 15th, and again from 2 to 2:30 Eastern Standard Time. And I want to thank you for joining me. Besides, no sound at the very beginning, does anybody have any questions for me? And if you're curious, if you're on a desktop, you have the little portal on the right side. You can click on question and type it in there, or you can type it into chat. If you're on a cell phone, the chat feature or question feature is usually at the bottom of the screen, or same with any mobile device. All right, doesn't look like there's any questions. Well, almost always when I say that, there's one that pops in. Thank you for sending in a question. It says, is there a YouTube video with a demo for these items? Yes, I made so we have on our YouTube page, you just type in Saebo on YouTube and it'll take you to our page. And then we have different playlists where most of the videos are divided by what product they are. So you can watch multiple patient demos, testimonials, and then recently I've created some of the unboxing videos to show you sort of how to set it up, or some little tips or tricks. And in the future, we're going to be continuing to develop these things. Right now, I'm creating some commonly asked question videos. There's one that should be coming out hopefully tomorrow or Friday, and 2 or 3 more of those, and some clinical videos that are coming out. But we are trying to make and give you guys all the resources that we can to help you have the best recovery that you possibly can. You know, here's a great example down here. This gentleman, he is a super success story. He actually had an article about him in the National OT magazine, written by one of our regional support therapists up in Michigan. It was pretty amazing. He was I want to say he was a former auctioneer, and he used Saebo products for his recovery. He had the Saebo Step and the Stim Go, and used the Flex, and got, you know, the hand back so he could strike the gavel. He used the mirror box, and he actually returned to being an auctioneer. It was pretty cool. Let's see. There's a question here that says, can it be used with patients with spasticity of level 2? So that would actually fall into the mild to moderate range if we're talking about the gold standard spasticity levels. For the most part, you can use it on any type or any level of spasticity. If you're up at a very, very high spasticity, you might have to reduce your tone to get your arm into the mirror box. With the SaeboGlide, you can combine the SaeboGlide with electrical stimulation to help with some of that spasticity as well. I know we had one gentleman that he was 11 years post-stroke that we treated, and his arm was in that resting bent position, and we put electrical stimulation on his triceps or the back of his arm, and helped straighten out his arm for the first time in 11 years. And I mean, not only did he let out a big gasp for how great it felt to have his arm open, but then he participated with one of our triggered functional electrical stimulation units, and also with the Saebo Stim Go at home, using the SaeboGlide and doing exercises in time with the Saebo Stim Go, or when you have a functional electrical stimulation, you actually have a trigger that you can trigger when you get your e-stim. Makes it a little easier to do it when you want, whereas when you have something that's they call it cyclical electrical stimulation or pre-programmed, then it's on a specific time pattern. So usually every 5 seconds, 8 seconds, 10 seconds. But yeah, great products, and I hope that you guys return, and also check out our YouTube page and our website as well. We're making changes and adding new information, and trying to make it bigger and better every day. Thank you again. Well, we got one more in here. Yeah, so the mirror box and the SaeboGlide you can use. That's I originally gave with any level of spasticity, I originally gave the example of maybe having to reduce your tone to get your arm inside the mirror box, just temporarily. But for the most part, yeah, you can use it with any level of spasticity. And again, it's all about tricking your brain and getting that brain to activate and work from the top down, instead of everybody saying, we got to move your arm, we got to get the hand. So that's a bottom up approach. Like it's really successful, and I love using it, especially as an adjunct. All right, y'all, sorry, that's a little bit of my Southern right there. You guys have a great rest of your day, and stay safe. I know we've got some things going on in the world that are supposedly unsafe. Just make sure you're staying hydrated and washing your hands and staying clean. And come join us next month for our next webinar on the Saebo stretch. Have a wonderful day.